So Kayleigh, tell me about the arts at Aspen.
The arts at Aspen has been a critical piece of Aspen really since the beginning of the Institute. In 1949, there was this gathering, arts, philosophy, music, all of the humanities. This was always a part of the lifeblood of the Institute. And the program's been going on for several years. We have some very established programs, the artists in residence, and now we're taking a new approach, a new strategy, looking at how we can reintegrate the arts through all of the policy programs at Aspen, as well as leveraging what it is that we do at the Institute for public engagement around arts and social justice.
So what are the sort of conditions nationally and also locally in the places that you're working and seeing that are making your job easier right now?
Easier, those are the good things. I think
We'll start there.
We'll start there, yes. I think that since we are coming out of, I think, the worst parts of the pandemic, we're coming out of the national shutdown, we're coming out of social distancing, we're really seeing this vibrancy and this interest, this renewed interest in the abundance that the arts provide us. We want these activities in our lives again. We want to go to concerts. We want to experience theater. We want to go to the museums and see the art exhibits again. And that energy, that need coming out of audiences that want to enthusiastically engage with the arts, that I think really makes the job easier.
And the flip side of that coin, because we must, what are some things that are making it more difficult to do what you all are calling yourselves to do?
You know, the arts have an interesting relationship with policy, with culture. The arts are creating culture, but our culture changes, our culture shifts, and so does our relationship with the arts. And I think right now we are finding ourselves in a slightly more difficult area than we've been in recent years, where we're finding this question of censorship pop up more often. And really this question is about access, it's about control, it's about what we value. And we really want the arts to be for all. We really want the arts to be accessible for all. We especially want the arts accessible for youth. And so this is the sort of contention that we're finding ourselves in.
You said access, control, value, and I wonder if fear is not part of that.
Fear is definitely a part of it, and you know, we don't want fear to be this limiting force in our lives, and I think that the arts is a really good counter to that. Yeah. The arts is a really good counter to fear and to limitations, because it's all about the imagination, it's all about creativity, it's about critical thinking, it's about how we express ourselves. It's really, the arts tap into our purest sense of our humanity.
Kayleigh, so I think we have a more abstract sense of what censorship is. We hear it, it's sort of a boogeyman word that we know in the ether, but what are some of the more tangible ways that you're seeing this thing play out in the places that you all are involved?
I think that another area where we see this playing out in a tangible way outside of what we know happening with libraries and book bans are what's happening in museums and also our conversation around monuments. So we see this pop up every once in a while where a museum or a gallery or a visual arts presenting space wants to have a conversation, have a dialogue around its history of neglect and marginalization around more diverse voices and content, and that sparks a negative response. Yeah. One of the organizations that we are hoping to work with or think along the lines with in the coming months or so is Monument Lab. And they're having these conversations, these really difficult but critical conversations around thinking about the monuments that we've erected and that we experience walking through our cities, experience them in our daily lives, and are these monuments truly representational of American identities? Are they representational of American experiences? And these conversations are also often met with this sort of knee-jerk negative reaction. And I think that's the other complex side of this coin, is that when we're talking about censorship in the arts, it's not just the banning of arts and culture. It's also the resistance to critical conversations about what is already happening or has been happening in arts and culture.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is it's not just the yes or no, but also sort of the policing of how we talk about these things.
Yes.
Just funny, you think about some of the most influential and quite frankly profitable art forms in American history are also forms that are highly censored at their inception and often throughout their entire lifespans. I'm thinking like jazz, for example, and hip hop. And as we're coming into what is the 50th anniversary of hip hop, I guess coming out of what is the 50th anniversary of hip hop and the birth of hip hop, there's been a lot of critical conversation around essentially the sentiment of like, oh, you want us now. Like you want to talk about it now. You didn't want us then, but you want us now. I wonder if there isn't sort of work that you all are engaging with in that musical space specifically related to those things as well.
I think that the 50th anniversary of hip hop is this prime example of an arts milestone that we want to celebrate and should be celebrated, and also needs to be celebrated in a way that examines the history of the ways that it wasn't celebrated leading up to this milestone. As you've discussed, I think that there are coming up, there are some major cultural milestones happening for the country. There's a lot of talk already in museums and history centers around America 250, the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 2026. And there's a lot of, joyful energy, excitement around that kind of a milestone. And we need to be celebrating, all of our cultural milestones equally, I think. And also taking that critical lens. So I think that the way that we have seen some of these celebrations come up around the 50th of hip hop, we can apply that moving forward as we celebrate these, continued milestones.
So talking about milestones, let's look forward, 20 years. I don't know if you'll be in this role in 20 years, but what do you hope to see from sort of your niche in the Institute? What are some of the long aspirational goals that you have?
Well, some of my longer goals are to have some products to show, to have some data to show about the work that Aspen has been doing around arts and social impacts. That often we see the arts are given metrics in these qualitative means, which I love. I love a good survey answer. The arts are an emotional part of our lives, so we have this qualitative information about it. But I think in 20 years' time, we'll be able to show some reports about where we've been able to intervene and how we've been able to leverage the arts for social good.
And I think my last question, kind of how I like to end most interviews I give, is what else do you want us to know? What haven't we touched on that we should touch on? What haven't you said that might get cut in editing, but you want to say?
Just a long list of everything that we're doing in the arts. Actually, I will provide a little bit of a list because I think that like I said at the beginning, the arts have been a critical part of the Aspen identity and the Aspen approach since the beginning. And with that, there's a lot going on. So there's the ongoing Artist in Residency program. We are launching our first ever Artivist Fellowship for artists who are working in social practice around climate justice. Very excited about that. Hopefully that will continue on. We have our Arts and Diplomacy program where we are bringing in art from around the world, from contentious areas, by artists who are trying to get their message out. And we have arts happening all across the Institute. There's the Creative Native program with the Center for Native American Youth. There's the ongoing Neuro Arts program with Aspen Health. So there are so many places to interact with the arts at Aspen, and that's what I would like to leave you with.
Kayleigh, thank you for your time, your honesty, your candor, and thank you all for watching.
Thank you.